The night before everything changed, he rested in his small room on a quiet orbital station, unaware that his life was about to twist into something he could never have imagined. The crew quarters were silent, the hum of the ventilation system soft and steady, and the dim light drifting through the shutters made the room feel calm. He had spent the day repairing a docking clamp and expected the next morning to be equally simple. There was no warning, no sign, nothing unusual that could have hinted at the storm of fate moving toward him. He lay down, closed his eyes, and expected only dreams of metal corridors and scheduled tasks. What met him instead was a world of shifting color and deep sound. He opened his eyes to find himself lying on a bed of soft silver strands that glowed faintly. The air held a strange, cool scent like fresh rain, and the room around him was built from smooth, curved shapes that seemed alive. He sat up slowly, confused yet alert, his instincts always sharp. He had been taken somewhere unfamiliar, yet he felt no restraints, no pressure on his body, no signs of harm. The room expanded upward into a dome where patterns of light moved like drifting clouds. Before he could speak, the door opened without a visible seam, flowing apart like water. A tall figure stepped inside, graceful and quiet, wearing a robe of muted tones. Her presence filled the room with an aura he could sense even before she spoke. She moved with a kind of calm authority that left no doubt about her status. Yet there was softness in her expression as she looked at him. Her eyes, bright and shifting like reflections on a lake, held a depth that made him pause. She introduced herself as the sovereign of her people, ruler of a vast domain far beyond the human borders. Her voice carried a musical resonance, each word smooth and steady. She told him that her vessel had drawn close to the station during the night, that a rare cosmic event had opened a path allowing her people to sense a connection across long distances, and that this connection had pointed to him. When she said he had been chosen, he froze, unsure whether this was some form of misunderstanding or something more. He asked how he could possibly be chosen for anything so grand. She explained that her people followed an ancient tradition, a binding that occurred once every age. A sovereign chose a mate not by bloodline or politics, but through a resonance, a harmony of spirit that only emerged between rare individuals across the stars. For generations they had searched the cosmos for such matches. This time, the call had led directly to him, a simple human worker sleeping in a metal room beside a docking bay. He stood from the glowing bed, steady despite the unease growing inside him. He told her he was no leader, no noble warrior, no one of remarkable importance. She listened with patience, her gaze warm and unwavering. She said that her people valued heart over power, and that strength was not measured only by titles or deeds known to history. She assured him that the choice was not a burden forced upon him. It was an offering, a bond that only formed if both accepted. Still confused, he asked why his presence had been required so urgently. She explained that the cosmic event that allowed the resonance would close within a short time. If he had awakened on the station and moved through his day without responding to the call, the resonance would fade and her people would lose their chance for another long cycle. Their culture placed immense weight on this ritual. For a sovereign who lived without a chosen companion was believed to bring imbalance to their worlds. She stepped closer, her movements slow and respectful, as if approaching a wild creature that might flee. She offered him the chance to walk freely through her vessel, to see her people, to understand their customs before giving any answer. Her willingness to let him choose eased some of the tension inside him. He agreed to explore, needing time to grasp the impossible situation he faced. As they left the room, he saw corridors that flowed like living tunnels, lit by soft blue lines pulsing with energy from the ship itself. The inhabitants passed by with graceful steps, their forms varied, but sharing the same luminous eyes as their sovereign. They greeted him with quiet nods, curiosity flickering across their faces. Their voices chimed gently, and though he could not understand their language, he could sense no hostility. She guided him to a broad hall where structures rose like carved stone, but glowed from within. This was a place of memory, she explained, where the stories of past sovereigns were kept. She waved her hand, and the air shimmered, revealing an image of a distant age. A sovereign stood beside a companion from another world, their unity celebrated by an entire civilization. She showed him many such scenes, each one illustrating how their culture believed in bonds beyond species or form dot as they walked onward. She explained more about herself. She spoke not with the certainty of a ruler, but with the honesty of someone offering truth to a possible partner. She described her responsibilities, her hopes for her people, her desire to guide them with wisdom rather than fear. She made it clear that she was not searching for a servant or a symbol, but for someone who could stand at her side, share her burdens, and speak openly, even when their views clashed. He listened carefully, his steps slow as he tried to understand what this meant for him. He wondered if he could ever live among her people, far from the life he knew. He questioned whether he could take on a role so vast in a culture so different from his own. Yet every answer she gave was gentle and grounded. She did not promise ease, but promised support, patience, and the freedom to become part of their world in his own way. They reached a chamber with transparent walls that opened toward a starfield. The view was breathtaking. Nebulas shimmered in soft colors, and distant suns glowed like scattered embers. He stood for a long moment, absorbing the magnitude of the universe spread before him. She remained beside him silently, giving him space to think. In that quiet, he realized he felt no fear. The ship was alien, the customs unfamiliar, the request immense, yet he sensed a calm connection with her. She treated him not as an object, but as a person with choice and worth. Her presence held a steady warmth, and her people carried themselves with harmony rather than force. He looked at her and asked why him, out of countless beings in the stars. She answered that resonance chose those who carried a balance of courage and empathy, traits her people held in highest regard. She said she felt this balance in him from the moment the resonance reached her mind. He asked what would happen if he declined. She admitted she would feel grief, and that her people would need time to accept the loss, but she would never bind him to something he did not embrace. He nodded, moved by the sincerity in her words. Hours passed as she continued showing him her world. He met her council, individuals who observed him with thoughtful expressions. He visited a chamber where young ones learned through floating orbs that displayed shifting shapes and sounds. The children giggled softly at his unfamiliar form, touching his hands with curiosity. Their gentle enthusiasm brought a genuine smile to his face. He realized that despite their advanced technology and long traditions, her people held values that resonated with his own sense of humanity. They cherished peace, creation, and harmony. They valued honesty and courage. They saw strength and compassion. These were not ideals far from his heart. As they returned to the chamber where he had awakened, he felt a shift inside him. He understood the weight of the decision, yet he also felt an unexpected pull, a feeling that he belonged there more than he ever had on the station. The sovereign stood before him, quiet and composed, waiting for his choice. She did not speak first. She let him gather his thoughts without pressure. He breathed deeply, feeling the strange air fill his lungs. He told her that he never imagined a life beyond simple work and quiet nights, never thought he would be considered important by anyone beyond his small circle. Yet he could not deny the connection he felt, the way she spoke to him without expectation, the respect she offered, the sincerity of her people. He said that if the resonance had called him across the stars, then perhaps there was a reason for it. Her eyes brightened, a soft glow rippling through their depths. She stepped closer and lifted her hand, hovering it near his chest without touching. She asked if he accepted the bond by his own will. He met her gaze and said he did. The air shifted around them. A gentle wave of light flowed from the walls, spiraling upward like rising mist. It was the ship acknowledging the new bond. He felt a warm sensation spread through his body, not painful but profound, as if something within him aligned with something within her. It was not domination or control, but a shared pulse of mutual trust. She closed her eyes, steadying herself, then opened them with a newfound softness. She told him that from this moment he was not just a visitor, but her chosen companion, equal in presence and honored by her people. She promised that he would learn their ways slowly, at a pace he chose. He thanked her quietly, feeling overwhelmed yet grounded. The days that followed were filled with discovery. He trained with her advisors to understand the basics of their language, learning the fluid motions of their speech. He studied their history, their governance, their philosophy. He walked through gardens of glowing plants that responded to emotions, their colors shifting gently. He shared meals with her council, tasting foods that felt warm and smooth, unlike anything from human supplies dot through eye.